How's everyone doing? This is Basil with A Pinch of Basile. I am your lovely host. That's right. I am indeed Basil. And I'm happy to be here. It's probably a little bit bright in here, and I'll tell you why. We were having some technical issues and stuff like that, but I'm here with my wonderful hostess as I'm putting on my earbuds because, of course, I can't hear crap. It's wonderful, Janice. Janice, how are you, sweetheart? It's good to hear you and good seeing you. What's going on?
I am doing all right, and I'm glad that you got your new computer. That's so very exciting, and Christian is over there nodding his head.
Well, I'm sure he is.
It's a good day in paradise.
To be honest with you, it's been a little bit crazy because there was a couple, even though these are positive glitches, we've had a couple of issues that we have trying to update certain things. So I'm going to have to go ahead and use the actual computer microphone. It's not the most professional thing in the world, but you know what? Hey, it's America. Anything can happen.
But we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Yeah, it's nothing's fading in and out. Nothing's going in and out. It's just, I'm just so excited.
You're not glitching.
Yeah, it's not glitching. There's nothing going on.
It's exciting.
It really is. And actually, Christian, if you can, I'm sure, Christian, can you hear me?
Of course I can hear you.
The audio actually is fantastic just to listen to. I don't know about the microphone here because we probably need to go ahead and do a brand new update as far as for this actual wonderful expensive microphone that we can't use. But for God's sakes, if you are joining us, ladies and gentlemen, oh God, I don't even have my little Facebook thing set up, to be quite honest with you. You guys do, thank God. If you're joining us on Facebook, thank you so much. Don't forget, you can call 844-790-8255. That's 844-790, and follow me on Basil Fans, BASILE-FANS on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. But you can go to Basil Fans right now and catch us on the wonderful Facebook live that we have right now. And you really don't have a reason not to follow us. But besides our live stream on Facebook, you can also listen on live at americamatters.us. They're just wonderful people. And on the TuneIn app from your phone or tablet, just search America Matters, and then you'll see us, A Pinch of Basile podcast/radio show. And now you really don't have any excuse not to hear us or see us or do anything of that sort. But and today I want you to join in the conversation because we are going to hit a topic that probably has hit someone or one of your friends or you personally about drunk driving. I have a good friend of mine who's coming on, Mr. Michael Gershe, and he will be coming on. This is his book. He's an ugly son of a gun, but he is my friend.
I disagree with that. I disagree.
But anyway, I am here with my wonderful co-host, who I can't do the show without, Janice Hermson. Janice could not do without you and our
mostly Christian.
Our chief engineer, Christian, because without him, I don't know what the hell I'd do, to be quite honest with you. So we bought this brand new computer, and it's coming across well. It's working well. I just think, again, I have to download a new version for the audio to work with 10 Pro, because if you were on 7 Pro, then you also got these notifications that you are no longer being protected by everything.
No support, baby. No support at all.
No support whatsoever. It's stupid. It really is stupid. Give me the day. Remember the days when you just pick up the phone and that's God. Miss those days so much. But we move on. We progress. And with progression, we have a couple of setbacks, but these setbacks are not going to be going to hold us back too much longer. The Magic of Life is the book that Mike Gershe wrote. Give you just a little bit of background about Michael. He is really a very, very close and talented friend of mine who I've known for years. He works at Kent State University and also is a stand-up comedian as well. And I really, number one, he's a personal friend. He's a guy who I talk with all the time. And people say, well, what? Don't you talk to other headlining acts and stuff? Now, some of my best friends are the guys who I love working with, and I usually keep the same MO with the same people, and I just kind of just dig this guy. And the book that he wrote, I actually read it from cover to cover. It's very, very important that you all listen and get this book, because I'll tell you what, it pulls on your heartstrings, from his mother passing all the way to one of his best friends passing in drunk driver accidents that left him somewhat orphaned. He had a wonderful father that he grew up with, of course, until his father passed, and then his brother. So you can find all that stuff out as we go on. I want to talk to you a little bit about my events coming up, and we're going to wind up doing that on the next segment. Janice, it's really important. I want to thank all the people who are friends of mine, because it's really important that we send a thank you to all the people that help push. I did not know that Martin Luther King weekend, was basically just started back in the 80s. And I think it was way too late. We celebrated, basically, I tried to go blank with everything that I was doing. Cleveland State University, when I transferred to Cleveland State University, was the only school, and we'll talk about this next, that basically wound up forcing you to take mandatory Black history studies, believe it or not. I didn't know that. And I went there, and believe it or not, of all the things, I have a Black history minor. I have an economics and non-active business minor. And I'm a political science, foreign affairs specialist, and then I have like this crazy Black history minor, and I'll tell you a great story about that afterwards. But listen, folks, we got to go ahead and I'm rambling a little bit, because I'll tell you why. We were just caught off guard with this, and I didn't think it was going to have an issue with the microphone. So hopefully I'm coming through okay. Am I coming okay, Janice?
You are doing very well, and Christian affirms.
Thank God for Christian. But anyway, folks, listen, we got to do that little sponsor thing, and when we do commercial. So, listen, everything's better with a pinch of basil. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break. Don't go away. We'll have a few words from our sponsors.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
Now, back to the show.
Oh, we are indeed back on A Pinch of Basile. I got to tell you, I'm very, very, very excited. I really am. I have a good friend of mine who'll be on, and he's probably just impressed as hell with all the wonderful things that we've been doing on the show. I'm sure he is. A couple things before we go to Mike Gershe at the bottom of the hour. Some of the dates, folks. I promise you I'll be going dates. Listen, the dates are going crazy, and please go to basilelive.com. That's BASILELIVE.com. I signed an exclusive with Royal Caribbean. I'm only doing 8 dates with them. That's it. I can't do anymore because I'm so busy with the other programs that we have and things that we're doing. So, but I am not working with any other actual cruise lines. I'm only doing this, and so I'm very, very excited. But let me give you a couple things. First of all, this Friday, I'll be in Ottawa, Canada. Ottawa, Canada, for the Canadian HEPA and Greek Association down there, raising money for the community center and the organization they have. It's already sold out. So I just got to let you know that I'm sorry. It's sold out. January 28th through February 5th, I'll be on Royal Caribbean Cruise Line on the Grandeur of the Seas to the Caribbean. That's right. January 28th through the 5th. Grandeur of the Seas. On Friday, February 7th, I'll be in Detroit, Michigan at Andiamo Celebrity Showroom. Again, February 7th, Friday. It's Growing Up Greek in America. It is the first time I'm going to this event center. It's unbelievable. Tickets, I heard, are going fantastic. But, folks, listen, I can't repeat it. I'm going to tell you once. 586-268-3200. I'm going to lie. 586-268-3200. Andiamo's Basile, Growing Up Greek in America, Friday night, and it's to help benefit the Greek Independence Parade Committee. So come on, make sure. Sunday, February 9th through the 12th on the OPA cruise for St. Mark's, Royal Caribbean. OPA cruise, great cruise to raise money and for the church there. They're building a new church. It's beautiful. February 14th and 15th, I'll be in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania at the Comedy Zone at Boomerangs. That's right, the 14th and 15th. And then on the 16th, a special Greek show presentation that we're doing there You'll be hearing us on the radio and on the newspaper and all that other stuff, so you guys will catch us there. But go to HarrisburgComedyZone.com. We'll be doing a special Valentine's weekend there, and then Sunday, the 16th of February, you can catch me at HarrisburgComedyZone.com. February 19th through the 22nd, I'll be at the Comedy Cabana in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Call 843-449-4242. And for the rest of the shows, let's go to my website, Basile Live. That's BASILELIVE.com. Find out all the dates there. Janice, we were talking real quick, and you and I were discussing a little bit about Martin Luther King weekend, and a lot of people don't really, I think just think of it as a third day that you're off, and I think it's wrong to think about it because one of the greatest civil rights leaders that we've ever had, and I appreciate both of them, Malcolm X and Martin Luther King, who did so much to bring the equality of all men together and women, so they can be looked not as a color but as a people. And I think he truly an American, a worldwide icon versus just an American icon, and he's really done so much. So. What did you do? Did you do anything special over the weekend holiday?
Just worked. That's it. Just worked.
That was it?
Yep, that's all. Afraid so. Lots of work.
Oh, my God. That was it. I'm really surprised. I got to be honest with you. As I told you, Cleveland State University was one of the first actual universities that made you take mandatory Black history classes, at least 8 credit hours, which I think was 2 classes. But I liked the teachers and professors so much. I kept taking these classes over and over and over again. And I wound up having a minor, almost like a double minor, and one was Black history. And I'll never forget, I told you I was going to tell you this story, and Mike could probably appreciate this. I know he's listening in. I wound up going to a Black AMA storefront church on the east side of Cleveland. And I called up the preacher that was there, very, very sweet man. And I said, hi, my name is Basile Caciquis. I had to do a compare and contrast between a black Catholic church, a white Catholic church, and then a Black Baptist church and a white Baptist church. So it was a compare and contrast, and I wind up going like an idiot. I told him I was going to be there, what time to be there. He told me to be there early. I drove from the west side of Cleveland all the way to the east side of Cleveland. And I think I was probably the only white guy within a 10-mile radius around there. And I wound up going, and I'm looking around for other students to see if they went there. And it's right in the middle. I mean, there must have been like about 200 people in the chorus and about 200 people that were in the congregation. And singing, drum set. And I come from a Greek Orthodox religion where it's a little bit more, conservative and everything. And I start going, and I'm going, and as I'm getting into it, the preacher goes, there's a young man here from Cleveland State University. And I'm looking around like an idiot, like, who the hell else is here from Cleveland State University? And his name is Basile Caciquis. And I'm like, when he said my name, I'm like, I know he didn't say Basile Caciquis. Is Basile here in the church? And I'm like, oh my God. And I just had a woman who had a religious fit in the same pew as me. And I'm the only white guy there. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to blame this on Whitey. So I'm sitting there like, oh, what am I going to do? So I remember I walked up, and I didn't have what I would consider the chops that I have as public speaking as I do now. And I'm up there, a college kid, and I'm like, it is truly an honor to be here. I am so pleased that I can be part of this. And to be honest, this is just fantastic. We're from a very conservative faith. And I said, I just love the excitement. And I had this woman who was as big as a house jump up and scream, yes, Lord. And I went, oh my God, I'm killing. They're loving me here. Okay. And I continued going on and on and on. They invited me after church to go in the back, and they had this huge barbecue. It was great. But I got to tell you, I've always had strong feelings about Martin Luther King weekend, what it meant, but I also appreciate the things that Malcolm X did as well to, again, fight for what's right, never allow people to take advantage of you, and that's what he did. There was a difference between being basically being nonviolent and sometimes using violence as an end to the means to go ahead and stop what some of the people were going through at that time. But I thought it was great. I thought it was great. I don't know what kind of stories you have about Martin Luther King weekend, you, Janice. But
I do not have the same kind of history that you do with that. I absolutely do not. So I can't share anything as interesting as you.
Well, I got to tell you, I hope the listeners, because I don't even have me set up on Facebook right now, so I can't even tell what my listeners are have to say. But please, for any of you, make sure that you guys stick around for the second half with Michael Gershe. And we basically are going to have a hell of a good time. What else is going on, Jeff?
We are. I don't know. You want to talk a little bit about squirrels?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Did you see that?
What?
This is in your backyard. This is in your backyard, my friend. It is Squirrel Appreciation Day. Who doesn't celebrate Squirrel Appreciation Day, right? I mean,
you got to be nuts not to.
That was a natural. Yeah.
You tossed it for me. It was a soft toss. I got to take advantage of it when I can.
If I'm not mistaken, Basil, don't you do the voice of Bullwinkle?
Bullwinkle, yes.
And
of course, Rocky J. Squirrel.
Exactly.
I have a good story about June Foray and myself, the late June Foray. And I was doing a bunch of Taco Bell commercials. And when I did the Taco Bell commercials, I kept screwing up this line because Bullwinkle was like, and you get Doritos and I was going through all these things, and I kept flubbing this line. And finally, this woman who is no taller than 5 foot, and old as dirt, and thin and frail. She looked frail. One of the great voice actors this country has ever had. And I screwed it up so many times. She said an expletive. She goes, "Hokey smoke, Bullwinkle. I hope you can get this line done so we can go out and start drinking, for God's sakes." And I start going off on her as Bullwinkle. And it's me and her arguing as Bullwinkle J. Moose and Rocker J. Squirrel. I have it on that. And I say, people, put it on. No, because I can't. June Foray was a true artist, and I can't. The way she was, she had a mouth worse than a sailor, but I could never do it. It was hysterical.
That's great.
And I really love that. But tell me about these squirrels, because there's different squirrels right where Mike Gershe is at, that there are black squirrels. I don't know if you knew this. Did you know that there are black squirrels?
I did not know about black squirrels.
You didn't know about black squirrels?
No.
Oh, my God. We got black squirrels in Kent. We have the red squirrel. There are red squirrels, black squirrels, gray squirrels.
Okay.
Did you know that? You didn't know that, did you?
No. Flying
so is
squirrels.
It my part of the area that celebrates the squirrels?
Yes, it's in North Carolina. Western North Carolina Nature Center. The creator, Christy Hargrove, is a wildlife rehabilitator in North Carolina. And according to Christy, celebration of the event itself is up to the individual or group, anything from putting out extra food for the squirrels to learning something new about the species. And you got about 30 seconds here, buddy, so I can't tell you too much more.
I'm good. I'm just amazed that these people, because I go shooting for squirrels, hunting for squirrels.
Yeah,
I can say what they were going for, but I'm not going to say that on the air. But anyway, folks, listen, we're going to be right back with our wonderful guest. Mike Gershe will be joining us right after a couple of these messages. Don't go anywhere. You are listening to A Pinch of Basile.
Unable to listen to the whole show? A recording of today's program will be available later today. Visit americamatters.us and click on the podcast link. Now, back to the show.
Oh, you are indeed back with A Pinch of Basile. I am Basil. I'm your wonderful host with the most. And right now, to be quite honest with you, I'm looking for front and back pages because my computer decides to do something. It says, how can we throw Basil off? And I'm like, oh, well, okay. So anyway, listen, before we go in, you can go and catch us on Basil live everywhere. Just go to Basil.
Go to Basil Fans. Go to Basil Fans. Go to AmericanMatters.us.
First of all, my website's more important. All right, forget the Basil Fans. This is my website, for God's sakes. Basil Live, BASILELIVE.com. Always find out where we can find me, here and there, all of our dates. But if you want to catch us with our show right now, you can always go to Basil Fans. That's BASILEFANS. And that's for Twitter, Instagram, and, of course, our wonderful Facebook, where you can catch me right now with all my wonderful fans that are watching. And to be honest with you, being on this show, I have learned that I love listening to hearing about my fans. And I want you to know that I'm streaming this, for you guys on Facebook. And you can also listen on the TuneIn app or on any phone device, or if you have the app, just search America Matters. That's right, America Matters, and you'll find it. So Pinch of Basile, and it's under podcast. Pinch of Basile, you gotta go check it out. These shows are a lot of fun, and it's also a time for me where I can BS for a little bit on a riff and have some fun, like I've been doing here for this thing. I'm gonna tear my new computer a new one after I'm done. Anyway. You can also call in at 844-790-8255. That's 844-790-8255. Or you can also text. And Janice, indeed, what is that text number?
Oh, that number is 775-237-2266.
That's right. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to go to my guest. My guest is a personal friend of mine. And I got to read some of this stuff that he's done because, sometimes you really don't realize how, what a wonderful cat you have as a friend, but what a smart cat, you have as a friend as well. And, I got to tell you, I've known Michael for probably about, Mike, 20 years?
Over 20 years now.
Over 20 years. And, sometimes you don't really know, a lot about a person. Because we would always see each other, and my God, we are ruthless with another friend of ours when we all get together, and nothing is off the board. And I had the opportunity, and we have a friend in common by name of Greg Morton. And the story in here, folks, when you get the opportunity, I want you to go ahead and get this book. And this book is fantastic. The Magic of Life. I was very, very proud to say that Mike asked me for some advice on certain things with it. Why, if he took it, why? I don't know why he would take my advice, to be quite honest with you. But a magnificent book. I literally read it, and I don't read much unless there's a lot of pictures. I don't read much. I like pictures. Pictures are nice because you don't have to deal with anything except, just look at the pictures. But Mike has very, very few pictures and a great story. Mike, I want to read a little bit of your background as well, if I can just make sure I have all this. Let me see. Janice, do me a favor and read all the accolades he has, because, of course, I'm looking at different pages forwards and backwards. I want to make sure I give Mike the proper respect as far as being on the show.
Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we have Mike share with us what he has done, and that would be great. Yes, Mike?
Well, yes. He got his degree. Where did you get your degree from?
I have an undergraduate degree from Ashland University and a graduate degree from the University of Akron.
Lovely. And as we all know, it's a tough school to get into. Why, Mike?
Because you have to turn left on Bookville.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I pay attention to your set.
You do. You are the very few people that do pay attention to my school. Mike was also a scholarship swimmer. He was an NC2AA swimmer, and he swam for Ashland as well, right? For about 3 years?
About 3.5, yes.
3.5 years, seasons doing that. And, to begin, your academic accolades are, beyond reproach. So I'm not even going to mess with you there, because as much as I love screwing with you, I wouldn't do that to you.
That's the first time anyone has ever said that about my academics. So
yeah. I'm trying to be nice for God's sakes. Would you just shut up and take the accolades? Okay. Mike, explain where this all came from, and if you can, start it from Greg Morton when Greg actually told you to do something about it.
Sure. I think it was the very first time I was working with Greg at the old Hilarities on State Road. Now it's called the Funny Stop. And we were talking right before the start of the show, we're talking about our lives and our backgrounds. And when he found out that I was a survivor of a drunk driving crash, he was blown away. And then he heard about all my injuries. My mom was killed. I was in the car crash when I was 8 weeks old. And my mom, who was 28, died. All my bones were broken. My skull was completely fractured from one side to the other. And he was stunned by that. And then when I told him I was luckily raised by my dad and a Jamaican woman, and he heard a little bit more about the story, he's like, you have to write a book. And I just went, yeah, whatever. And he goes, no, promise me to write this book. And he took out his hand, extended his hand so I would shake it. And meanwhile, Jeff, the showroom manager, is announcing the acts and just about ready to call my name. So I take Greg's hand to shake on it, and I didn't say I promise yet. Meanwhile, Jeff announced my name as the opener and MC, and Greg's still shaking my hand, not letting go until I said, I promise. So I had to say, I promise, in order to get my butt to the stage. But I didn't think he was serious, and it took me 17, 18 years to actually finish the book. And when I finished it, the principal writing last year in January, Greg and I were working once again. And it was great to actually look him in the eye and say, I fulfilled my promise to you. And, in this business, you have few close friends like you and Paul Bond and Greg, and that meant the world to me. And in order to look at him now, go, I promise, and I finished it. So it was a great accomplishment to do.
Folks, the one thing that you need to know, that Mike's mother and almost Mike's life were ended by a drunk driver in Long Island, New York, right, Mike?
Well, we were living. We were coming back from Long Island, and we were about less than a mile away from our house in Spring Valley when we were hit. So we were going through the intersection when a drunk driver plowed through the intersection, T-boned the car, and it also pushed our car into a telephone pole and split the car all the way up to the dashboard. And when the first responders arrived, they found my father, my brother, and my mother, but no one knew I was in the car for a while. I didn't make any noise. And I was found between the door and the dash of the car about 10 or 15 minutes after they found everyone else.
Wow.
And, as you being a parent, you know how precious babies are. And the fact, my dad was dealing with doctors who said your son is touch and go. We don't know if he's going to survive. And his wife was in surgery. And my mom died in the morning after the car crash due to her injuries. And I had to be put on a special board because they couldn't put me in a cast. So they strapped me down to a board. I had so many blood transfusions, my aunt lost count. And, they just didn't know if I was going to be normal. And, when I had to get taken back to the hospital for months afterwards to make sure I didn't have any brain damage. And, you could tell I'm perfectly fine now. And
okay.
But, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't appreciate life, because I knew at 8 weeks old that I, should have been dead or could have been dead. And, I dedicated my life to make sure that other families don't go through the same thing that I went through in terms of losing someone due to a drunk driver, or now, impaired driving. So the book is really about not only my life, but how Dolly, the Jamaican woman, came into our lives and how she raised me and my brother as her own flesh and blood. I always joke, she loved me as her own. She beat me as her own. But it was just a dynamic family. And I talk about grief and how we overcome, and especially men, how we don't want to talk about it, and how, humor is a big part of coping.
Agreed. It really is. And your story goes so much deeper because you've also lost friends who were intoxicated and yes, were into a car wreck. And as I read the book, I was kind of torn, but as far as, listen, we all love to drink. And as we get older, you think, I can handle it. But, after 2 drinks, I throw cool of the keys or I won't drive. And so I'm very, very particular. You'll notice at the comedy club and stuff when we're always working, I don't really drink except maybe after the show I'll have a cocktail, but usually before then. On the next segment, I want to talk a little bit about the loss of your one brother that was a good friend, and I mean that in that way as a brother. Your real brother is alive and well, thank God. I also want to talk about Dolly. And, of course, we have some, general things that we talk about, because I have a question here. It says, when you write your routine, what do you think about? And I started laughing because when Janice came up with that question, I started giggling. I'm like, well, he talks about Dolly, but I really never knew the importance Dolly was in your life. And until we start talking and going over some of the things, because we share some of the stuff. When I write something, I say, hey, Mike, take a look at this and tell me what you're thinking back and forth. We're going to be right back with this, ladies and gentlemen. Mike, they can get the book on Amazon.
I'm posting that. I'm posting that for you.
Okay, folks, get this book. It's a great read. It's a wonderful story, and it's very, very hard. It makes your heart feel good the way he came across with them. But we're going to be right back after a few of these messages from our sponsors. You are listening to A Pinch of Basile.
This is America Matters Media on AM 1180 KCKQ, a Lotus broadcast station. The power of radio since 1967.
To join the conversation, call 844-790-TALK. That's 844-790-8255. Now, back to the show.
And we are indeed back with A Pinch of Basile. I am the host with the most. That's right, I'm Dave. And anyway, we're... And by the way, folks, don't forget that we're streaming this live on Facebook. Facebook fans on Facebook. Basile fans, BASILEFANS. Check us out there. Again, if you have any questions, you can call 844-790-8255. And for that text number, go ahead, Janice.
775-237-2266. It's the only time he lets me talk.
No, that's not true. You are the main cog as well. Well, there's two main cogs. All right, maybe there's like a main cog and a smaller cog. Okay? And then there's me, that little spit in the ground right there. It's you and Christian. I got to be honest with that. And Christian's so smooth. He's like, hey, man, we're okay.
Yeah, he always is. Up to the wire. He's awesome.
He's a man. But he's unbelievable. Listen, you can also get us on the TuneIn app and also on America Matters. That's right, americamatters.us. Make sure you go and see where it says A Pinch of Basile podcast / radio show. You can always find out where we're at by going to my website as well at basilelive.com. We are talking to my guest and good friend, an author. Not only does he work at the University of Kent, or Kent State University, I should say, Michael Gershe, who wrote this wonderful book, and you say The Magic of Life. And he's talking about what it was like growing up without his mother, who was killed by a drunk driver. And Michael, how many seminars do you wind up doing, for keeping kids off the road when they're drunk? And I know you do that all over the country.
Yes. Yeah. We do probably about 5 to 10 high schools in that prom time area, and I do one for the Stowe Municipal Court here in Summit County, and I probably do another 2 to 3 for M.Ed, also in the Northeast Ohio per month. So we're looking
at Mothers Against Drunk Drivers, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And in fact, she asked me today if I could talk today. Some other speaker fell out, and I said, "Oh no, I got to do Basile's show." So,
and you were wise doing that because you would never have the last of it.
About 30 or so a month. I mean, a year. I probably do.
Uh-huh. And do you add humor in these seminars?
Yes, I start off by doing comedy first to ease everyone in, because it's interesting when you do it for the drunk drivers, because they come in mad, upset, they don't want to be there, and if you could reduce their tension a little bit by using humor, then their defense mechanisms drop. And humor is for us a defense mechanism, but also you see it reduces people's tension. And after you make them laugh for a little bit and relax, then I can take them on this journey of my journey in terms of everything. So it doesn't come across as I'm preaching to them or talking down to them. And then they realize it's a little bit different of a program, and they're willing to hear what I have to say. So it works out pretty well by using humor up front.
And I have one of the comments that came from people. One of the he's a truck driver, and the comment was, "Get this guy off the stage. Let's bring Basil back." So I think that. Sorry, I had to.
You wrote that yourself, didn't you?
I was a drunk driver at your horse. No, I'm only kidding.
Wow.
First, yeah.
Wow.
First of all, we need to talk a little bit about Dolly. Now, folks, for those of you, and I know you're going to get this book, great book. You really need to read this because, Mike, how did a black Jamaican woman come into your life, Mike? And it was from your grandparents, Jewish grandparents, and they loved her, wanted her, needed her. And tell them quickly the story because I just
Dolly was in England at the time. She was the very first policewoman in Scotland Yard, and she was visiting her sister in New York in October of '70. And my grandmother put an ad in the newspaper for part-time help. She called, scheduled an appointment to meet my grandmother, didn't show up. So she whatever reason, she didn't show up. A few weeks goes by, saw the ad again, called, and this time she came to the house in upstate, about an hour away from Brooklyn. And when she came to the house, she met my grandmother and went up to the crib to see me. And she said she put her fingers in the crib, and I latched on to her fingers, and I smiled. And she said, "This is where I have to be. This family needs me more than anything else." And that shows you that fate is real, because here is a woman, just by happenstance, didn't show up for the first interview, and then, comes together for this. And, when her visa was up a few, years later, she was going to go back, a few months later, she was going to go back to Jamaica to finish being a nurse. My grandparents didn't want her to leave, so my grandfather sponsored her to stay. So really, I think my grandparents kidnapped her and to stay with the family much longer. But it was only supposed to be a part-time job, and it turned into family.
Yeah.
And it wasn't about color or creed or religion. It was about basic human need. And, she talked about unconditional love and what the human spirit could do. And I say this every time I speak. If the world had a lot more of her in the world, we wouldn't be so screwed up as a society.
They looked past the color and saw the person, the human being. Of course. Even back then, that was a tremendous thing to do, that they were so open about it. And Dolly was basically your mother. She raised you. She did everything for you. And it's just a great story. Mike, the one thing that how did Dolly take when you lost your friend, who is the really big guy? I forgot his name now.
Big John Kelly.
Big John Kelly from Lakewood, Ohio?
Yes.
Okay.
Lakewood, yes.
From Lakewood, Ohio, which is near where I lived when I lived in Cleveland, in the greater Cleveland area. How did Dolly take that? Did she,
it was hard. She took it hard because we were all brothers. John and four other people, from college, we all bonded and we all became this little gang of family. So we, to each other, we were everyone's kids. So John was like one of Dolly's kids as well. So my dad and Dolly took that very hard because, especially, it was drunk driving. John knew my story for 15 years, and he still died as the result of being a drunk driver, which is horrible. And that would have been his first DUI. So not only did I lose one of my best friends, but it was also the way it happened.
Yeah.
Add to that level, because when we talk about grief, there was times where I was still angry with John because, I thought he knew better, but yet he still went out and did it. So it was crushing because, when you lose a member of your family, and even though he wasn't like my real brother, he was still in that brotherhood as you said before. So it was extremely tough.
Yeah. Has the whole issue with drinking, and what it's done to your family, and what it's done, of course, taking your biological mother away, and someone who's as close as a brother. Do you drink at all? Mike, I don't remember you. Do you have a cocktail once in a while?
Oh, I drink through your set every night, man.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Okay,
thank you for joining us, Mike. We're a little bit short on time.
I am not against the use of alcohol. I do drink. I'm just against it when
you do it responsibly.
Yeah, against it would have harmed someone else and other people. But yeah, I don't mind having one or two, especially if I'm not driving,
Right.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely not against it.
It's kind of funny. One time I was an idiot and went from my fraternity house in Cleveland, Ohio, Sigma Tau Gamma, my brothers, and came home drunk. And what killed me most was that I thought to myself for a moment that I could have taken the life of someone else. It wasn't the concern about my life, is that I could have killed somebody else. And that I couldn't live with. And that would have been a very, very difficult thing for me to live with. It's just really kudos to you for actually making people think about it. And for all of you people out there who are right now watching, listening, you should think about, if you have a program there, getting the book, The Magic of Life, but also having Mike. He's a very, very funny cat. Even though I give him help, it's okay. I'm his friend. But to actually go ahead and bring them to actually some of your clinics that you have for that, because that's the one thing that we don't have. Usually we have authors on here, athletes and whatnot, and their messages go far. You actually have lived it, breathed it, part of it. You wrote a book about it, and then you also give seminars about it. And I think that was fantastic in what you do. Mike, where are you going to be at? Where are you gigging at these days?
Well, aside from the Funny Stop, normally Thursday I'm back at the Stowe Court, doing my program for the DUI offenders, and then in February a few more, and we're talking to some high schools, and we're also talking to the Pennsylvania prison system, doing women's prisons and talking to them. And
you will be just nothing more than a piece of meat to them, Mike. And I appreciate that.
Yes, I am.
When I look at you, Anyway.
I want to know.
So, I'm pretty sure we're getting ready to wrap this up pretty quick here.
Yeah, I know. Janice, do you have a quick question for Big Mike?
Well, I am curious. It did take you a while to write your book. Did you enjoy the process at all, or would you do it again?
It was a love-hate, and I had a wonderful editor who really helped me structure it. I did enjoy it because I love the creative process. Like being a comedian, you write the stuff and then you see what happens. Right. And the fact that it's helped so many people with their grief and people enjoyed it, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Cool.
No, very man, cool. That's great. Folks, listen, a reminder, don't forget to listen every week, Tuesdays from 6 to 7 New York City time. That's Eastern Standard Time. We can be heard all around the world. That's right to all my fans. Go to americamatters.us. If you're using the TuneIn app, just search America Matters. Be sure to keep it on one of your favorites. Questions and comments, go to Basile Fans on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or give me a call at 844-790-8255. Mike Gershe, I love you. Brother, we are brothers.
Nice to meet you, Mike.
From other mothers. And for all my people who are listening out there, this is Basile Fans. You've been a treat. I love you all. Good night. Good night.